Verse 10, "Oh, I mention you without ceasing, I mention you always in my prayers, asking that somehow, by God's will, I may now at last succeed in coming to you." Devout Jewish people of this day and age would have spent many hours praying, usually in the morning and in the evening. Paul tried also, you can read in Acts, to get to Rome many times, but he was stopped by the will of God. But it didn't stop him still praying and wanting to be with them. So he desires through his prayer, and he understands that when the will of God lines up with that prayer, the moment will happen and he will get to see them. My thoughts on this is a good example of a longing in our heart that will only come to pass if two things collide: our prayer and the will of God. It was the will of God for Paul to go to Rome when he did, but it wasn't the will of God at that particular time, but he didn't stop praying for it. And many times we stop praying for things thinking it maybe not be the will of God. But if you're longing to be with someone and longing to encourage them in Jesus and longing to lift someone else up, that is the will of God. So Paul did not cease. I would say if you've been praying for a Porsche for 10 years, give up. Stop praying for that. Pray for someone else's life. Pray for someone else to be blessed. Pray to long to see someone else's life move forward, and perhaps God will bless your world in Jesus' name. He was longing to be with them. He was not asking for anything except to be with them, to be with people that love Jesus. Verse 11, "For I long," everyone say, "I long." And here's the point of tonight's message. In verse 6, we see that we are called to belong to Jesus Christ. If we are secure in God, if we're secure in understanding that we are called to belong to Jesus Christ, we will understand that belonging to Jesus leads to a longing to be with other fellow believers, to be in community, to be a part of something like this, to be a part of a group at a house that talk about God, to go out with like-minded people and to glean off each other so we can shine the light of Jesus through that moment. "For I long to see you, that I may impart to you some spiritual gift to strengthen you. That is, that we may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith, both yours and mine." This was common practice in a letter at this time, to say that you long to see someone, especially where the two people were geographically separated. And so they would have understood that this is common practice. But in the surrounding verses and the understanding of what he was longing to bring to them, it would have been so unique and so different that he was going there to be someone that would bring a spiritual gift to actually lift them up. Paul's desire to see them was not to judge them or bring them down. Although he did challenge them through this letter, his main objective change was to encourage them and impart life and spiritual gifts to them. We should also, when in not each other's company, long to see each other, because it is Christ that brings us together. Despite our differing opinions and ideas, we all belong to Jesus. Paul was secure in his belonging to Christ, and as a result longed for the best for the Roman church. Throughout the week, we should also long to see each other and want blessing and the best for each other. Paul was not concerned about his own well-being, but he knew if he cared about them, his own needs and the encouragement he needed would be provided, because Jesus was his source. He belonged to Jesus, not to them. But he longed to be with them because they also belonged to Jesus. We are encouraged through faith. We are not encouraged through doubt. He is encouraged here in verse 12, that we may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith. Faith in what? Faith in the fact that we belong to Jesus. So we encourage each other when we both believe in Jesus. If we come to each other in doubt about that, you will not feel mutually encouraged. You will feel also down. But as faith hits faith, there is a spark. Iron sharpens iron. Life comes in the moment of faith. If you don't have faith about your own personal world, have faith about Jesus, because he has faith in you. If you're lacking in believing that God could do something and use your life, just believe in Jesus. He doesn't call you to believe in yourself. He calls you to believe in him, and he in store believes in you. His faith in you is stronger than your faith in him. He went to the cross. He went to the cross. He became a man, humbled himself to the point of the cross. I remember when Georgie and I were first dating, and it was our first time apart. Georgie went to Bali with her family. And oh my gosh, I longed to see her. I just longed. We talked on the phone and, just, how's Bali? And you getting your hair braided? Having any bing-tang? I don't think you had any bing-tang, did you? You did have hair braids. Yes, you did. She came back off the plane as like this golden hair braided beauty. Yes, she was very brown and I was very jealous. But that's not the point of the story. You're sidetracking me. The point of the story was there was a longing in my heart for her. We loved each other. We knew that we loved each other. And that separation of geography didn't mean my longing actually disappeared because I couldn't see her. It actually increased. And so when we're not in the same room together, in the same way, we should long to be around each other's company because of what Jesus has done in our life. That way we should speak well of one another. If you find in your own world that you're pulling down people, just ask yourself the question, what am I doing by pulling someone down here? Am I building that person up? Am I going to see them and then mutually encouraging? You'll find that you can't have faith in that moment because you've been over here saying other things about that person. But Paul, despite the issues that the church was facing, still spoke highly of them and was grateful and thanking God for their faith. God is not after us to be perfect right now. He wants us to take steps closer to becoming more like his son. He's not looking for perfection right now. He already sees us as that. But we understand that we fall short, we keep stumbling, but it's the job of fellow believers to lift each other back up and point each other to Christ. This is not just Paul going through the motions of thanking them and saying, hey, you guys are great, thanks for coming to church, wow, it's awesome. No, he's saying, you don't understand. If you speak well of one another and you point each other and your faith encourages each other, you will become more like Christ within that relationship. That's the goal of the gospel, that we become like Jesus and glorify God forever. And so when we long to be with one another and we thank God for one another, especially when we're not in each other's company, we're saying to God that this is real. This is real. When we're in our own places and we're praying for each other and we're longing to see someone else blessed, someone else fall in love with Jesus.